Welcome to Level Up and Friends, where those of us from the video game and comic book store, Level Up Entertainment, get together with some friends each week and talk about a subject we're passionate about. We're doing yet another Simpsons episode. So joining me this week, I'm your usual host, Scott, and joining me this week, as usual, for Simpsons episodes is Kayla.
Hello.
So this is one we wanted to tackle when we're talking about like Simpsons side characters. This is the big one. Arguably the best guest star that they have on a regular basis. It's between him and Phil Hartman. We're going to be talking about Kelsey Grammer's turn as Sideshow Bob. In preparation for this episode, we each watched every episode that had a Bob speaking line, and it fried my brain because I watched them all in one day. But let's get into it. So I guess, Kayla, let's start with general thoughts on Bob and why we wanted to do this episode.
Yeah, he's just, you love him, you hate him, you love to hate him. He's just a perfect evil genius that you also kind of want to go out to dinner with.
Yeah.
He just has this charm.
I think I started because I started rewatching Frasier a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, you know what? I'm always looking for an excuse to talk Simpsons with Kayla. I was like, hey, sent you a text message like, hey, you want to do Sideshow Bob? But a lot of these episodes I have not seen because I kind of fell off the wagon like season 12-ish, where I stopped watching regularly and then basically just stopped watching it at all. But surprised myself, I did kind of come back and watch a lot of these Bob episodes as they happened, because they happen infrequently enough that it's always kind of a big deal when Sideshow Bob's going to be on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And have kind of a strange character arc throughout all of these episodes, where like they remember certain things happened and certain things that didn't, and it's interesting to watch. And because he doesn't appear every season, like you can, in watching them in order, it's like you can definitely see like the season go through, like the series go through all of its different changes and iterations.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of interesting to watch. I don't know if I'd recommend watching all of them back to back.
Yeah, by the end of our list, I feel like you could just hear the tiredness in Kelsey Grammer's voice.
Tell you, I felt the tiredness in my brain.
It's just like, wow, we're still doing this.
Yeah, and it's disappointing. I guess we'll say this. We'll go through each episode and give our thoughts of them in order, and then I guess we'll make that into some sort of coherent statement. But I don't know. Like, it felt like the character, like the creators really struggled to come up with like new scenarios for him.
Yeah.
Like, so there's a while where he stops showing up. Like there'll be big, like he won't show up for a couple of years, and then there'll be like a bunch right after each other.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I don't know, like how many times can he just try to show up and try to kill Bart? Like,
Right. Well, and like I feel like the first few times are so successful just because they are just like kind of like these simple like evil villain plots where like you really just start seeing him kind of like thinking out how he's going to like not only like get his revenge but like also take down the town in a lot of these
yeah,
kind of schemes, and like they're just so classic. And then you have his amazing voice and just this character who's really well written and supposed to be like this kind of, you know, upper class, upper crust kind of like charming dude.
yeah, because I know the origin of the show is, I forget the writer's name, but before he worked on The Simpsons, he worked on Cheers, which is
Uh,
where the
mhm.
Fraser Kane character comes from. And apparently, like I watched an interview with Kelsey Grammer, kind of explaining like how he came up with that voice. It's apparently like a someone he used to work for, like an acting coach or someone.
Mm-hmm.
It is based on more on his inflections and stuff. But Kelsey Grammer would be like singing when he comes into the set and stuff. So the original idea is like he would sing in every episode, which is more or less true. There's a couple where
Yeah.
he doesn't. Um, so that was kind of like going to be a gag that they did. Like it was originally going to, I think they originally wanted to do ask James Earl Jones to be the voice. And then because he knew Kelsey Grammer, they brought him in. And like that might be an interesting like alternate reality to peek into. because I do think Frasier stuff, or Kelsey Grammer stuff, specifically Frasier things, inform Sideshow Bob more. We'll get into that, especially when we get to Brother from Another series. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's I like that they like, at least in the golden year of The Simpsons, they did not overuse him, so it made when he showed up like a real event.
Hmm.
And they used to be a lot more. The episodes, I think, were a lot more diverse, and then this, as the show kind of got dumber, so did like the plots where he just shows up and like has a
Yeah.
kind of over the top super villainy scheme.
Yeah, they're really like, you know, hinging on the fact that like it's like, oh, he's your old favorite. Doesn't
Yeah,
really matter if the story's illogical. He's
it's just
here.
it's just there. You're gonna watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
And
I
he
guess
did, but
I mean I did a bunch of them. So like I was
that's
going back
it.
when I was going down the list of them in preparation for this podcast. I was surprised by how many I had already seen, considering
Mhm.
like I had very much stopped watching the show at that point. But I guess let's go through his appearances and kind of try to paint in this picture a little bit. So the first episode, not the first episodes he appears in, because he was a background character originally, but the first time he majorly factors in the plot is season 1, episode 12, Krusty Gets Busted. This is the one where, spoiler alert, he frames Krusty to take over his show. What did you think about this one?
Um, I mean, this one's a classic, right?
Yeah.
This is kind of like, also I feel like this is kind of one of the first times that you get to see like Krusty as like a main kind of character in the show, and not
Yeah, because
just
I
like
think I think up until this point they were still playing with the idea that he was secretly Homer Simpson.
oh, right.
But this one they clearly, because Homer's like the witness in the robbery, so like they're clearly two different people now.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. I remember when this came out, and when this came out, I was like 6. And I remember being like, when they revealed the mystery plot, because they set up all the clues ahead of time, I remember thinking it was brilliant. And watching now, it's like really childish.
Pretty obvious.
Yeah.
You're like, whoa.
And I think we'll get into that a little bit more. I do think that the Simpsons writers, when they really want to do a mystery plot, like they can really put one together, like with Who Shot Mr. Burns. But this is still season 1. Everyone's still figuring things out. This was still like something you did not see on TV at the time. But it also sets up a lot of like Krusty lore. Obviously, it's our first introduction to Sideshow Bob. I doubt they ever really thought they'd bring him back after this, because he just, guest star. He goes off to jail. Like, there's nothing like specifically setting up a potential sequel.
Mhm.
Although I do
Yeah.
like that there's a follow up to this episode next season. I don't remember the episode title, but like they finally get Krusty to come over for dinner because to thank him, or for all the stuff that they since Bart saved his life, they want to have him come over for dinner. And that's where they discover they reconnect him with his father. I really like that episode.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's a nice simple story. I kind of wish they didn't reveal to the audience that he was behind him earlier in the episode. I kind of wish we figured it out with Bart.
Well, I feel like this is like one of the few ones where, well, I won't say that, but I feel like this is like one of the ones where Bart kind of like pieced it together on his own. Like he doesn't have to like turn to somebody else to like help him out with it.
Oh yeah, there's definitely later episodes where he's like, "I need your help, Lisa, because you're the smart one."
Yeah, because he's
Yeah.
so stupid. But like this one, I feel like is like, I don't know. He's just like so devoted to Krusty the Clown, which there's something like so sweet about that. And especially I love the end scene of this episode where, like the whole town is like turned on Krusty and they're trying to like burn all of the Krusty memorabilia, which if you follow the show, is like
Oh, he's
a running gag.
Yeah, he sells out every opportunity he can get.
Just like scams kids with like cheap stuff that's like dangerous and will catch fire. But anyway, so like everybody's like burning the stuff, and Bart's just like, so he just like truly fully believes that it's not Krusty. And then at the end, once everything's kind of like settled and revealed and the town figures out that it wasn't Krusty, all of his stuff is back in his room and he's just like so content. It's just like such a
Yeah.
sweet moment. I don't know.
But there's a moment, you know, where Krusty like thanks him for help saving. There's one boy who never lost his faith. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
this is cute, you know. Or season one, you know, so it's still a lot more like schmaltzy, and then the show kind of got real cynical real fast, which was a big part of its identity.
Right.
But it's cute. I don't think there's much to say about the episode. Bob does sing on the show after he takes over Krusty's show, which is funny that he still wears his like stupid sideshow costume.
Yeah.
But you know, that's like a fun like juxtaposition. This like really like high class intellectual guy with like, you know, Kelsey Grammer's like thoughtful voice and performance. You know, and then he's like this goofy like tribal native thing that they're going for. Like the whole Krusty show is so anachronistic. Like even at the time, like it's very Bozo the Clown. And like, granted, I wasn't 10 in like when the show started, but like even as a kid, like nobody was watching things like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's weird. It's probably even weirder now, 30 years later.
That they all sit and watch the clown.
So popular. Yeah. That a clown on TV has any kind of ratings. But yeah, so I don't know. That's Krusty Gets Busted. Unless you got any final thoughts, we'll move on to the next one. Because in my opinion, the next episode is when things start getting interesting.
I agree. Yeah. This one is like you get a taste of Sideshow Bob without really like seeing like everything that they can really like have this actor do.
Yeah, it's still like he's still almost proto Bob in a way. Mm-hmm. I think next season 3, episode 21, Black Widower, is when I think Sideshow Bob becomes the character we kind of like know today. So in prison, he has like there's like a romantic pen pals thing, I guess. Maybe it's not romantic initially, but like it becomes a romantic thing with him and Marge's sister Selma. So anyway, it becomes like a whole scheme to marry her, kill her, and then like take all of her money. But it's kind of interesting because like it's not really revenge against the Simpsons. In fact, it's never really set up that he knew that they were related at all. It just so happens when she brings home like her new boyfriend to dinner, it's Sideshow Bob.
This one is personally my favorite Bob episode, just because I love Patty and Selma. They're like some of my favorite characters.
You know what? They grow on me the older I get.
They're so good. Like they're just so good. And I just think that like the relationship between them and Bob is just like such a fun one to play on. Is it he marries Patty? No, Selma.
It's Selma, yeah.
Selma, right.
Patty's the one who eventually is revealed to be a lesbian.
That's right. Yeah. As much as I love them, I still can't tell them apart. Like,
I can.
They're just like Patty and Selma.
Oh, and Julie Kavner does slightly different voices for each of them, which is amazing and so hard for her because like even doing Marge, like you can hear it in the modern episodes, like she just destroyed her voice over these years.
It was for a good cause.
Doing this horrible gravelly thing.
But yeah, I think Selma and Bob, I actually think in a weird way we're like a really great couple. I don't know.
Well, I mean, so when they're courting, it's really cute.
Right.
I like that their big fights over MacGyver. And it makes sense that he thinks it's stupid. I also wonder how much, because that's such a big part of like his scheme. I wonder how much of that like he was acting during, or like if that's legitimately how he came up with it, like, or that was a legitimate reaction.
Yeah,
because you know, I don't know.
There's just so many good one-liners in this one too, and just like because Patty or Selma's supposed to be like the revolting to all men, essentially, is like the joke. Like Patty and Selma are like these not bachelors, but I guess like spinsters, if you want to say that term.
Yeah, and they're shown to be kind of repulsive in a lot of ways.
Yeah, like they're not very nice.
They're not traditionally feminine.
Yeah, let's say that because like, you know, who knows? There's somebody for everybody, right? But you know, like that's the kind of running joke is that like, you know, like they'll like send like sexy photos or something, and like men will just like start gagging and stuff, which is actually
Yeah.
quite cool. But they, I guess it's kind of works because I feel like they think that they're like all that, so it doesn't really like phase them too much.
I
They kind
mean,
of
to be fair, they're not portrayed as particularly nice.
no, yeah, and like they're pretty
Yeah.
cruel to other people. They work at the DMV, so like it's supposed to just be like they're just kind of awful.
And some days they don't let the line move at all. They call those weekdays. Um,
And they're just like chain smoking and just give
yeah.
bad advice. But they're those ants that come over and like play the slideshow of every minute of their vacation.
Yeah, which I guess think they do later in this. No, they do that and Krusty gets busted. That's why, because Homer's at the Quickie Mart and misses
Right.
that. I was gonna say I just saw an episode where they did that, and because I watched all of these back to back. But yeah, I don't know. I think Selma gets a lot more likable and gets a lot more character development over the show. I think she's one of the more interesting side characters.
I agree.
And like I think she becomes a lot more sympathetic. And I think this episode, I think you could say starts pointing her that direction. Although I think there's an episode in season 2 where she dates Principal Skinner, which kind of starts this she's like lonely.
Yeah. She kind
like
of has like a string of like fake marriages and
oh, I love later in the series they kind of make fun of it. She's like, my last name's already like Bouvier to
yeah.
where before. Like I'm not adding like Masahima Pedalon to the end of it. Like but I guess maybe we'll do an episode on Selma later because I'm finding
so.
I'm having a surprising amount to say because I also want to talk about the episode where she marries Troy McClure.
I know, that's a great episode.
Yeah. But yeah, so Black Widower, I think this episode again it sets up a new mystery plot, which I again at the time I thought was brilliant and is super basic now, but it starts playing a lot more with like atmosphere and mood and stuff that Sideshow Bob episodes tend to have. Like I love the scene where they're driving to their honeymoon and it's just lit by like the lights inside the car, and that's when we feel like Bob is being a bad guy, even though nobody suspects it but Bart. He's the only one that like keeps thinking he's up to something, which ultimately saves the day. I do think this is a much funnier episode than Krusty Gets Busted. Just thinking about when Bart's trying to explain to Homer that they need to go save her. He has to explain it 4 times, and he explains to Marge, and then they go off in the Simpsons reveal. But like, I think Bob's a way funnier character in this.
He's like he's the villain. He's carrying the story, and like he's kind of like telling the audience as we go like what his like plan is before it's happening, so you're kind of like watching it unfold.
And he's so charismatic and likable, like you get why a woman might fall for him, and then like because of that, like we like watching him show up in episodes. That's why it's always exciting when he does.
And he just has like he's one of the only, I feel like he's one of the only side characters that has like his own theme song.
Oh yeah, he gets that in the next episode.
Yep.
But he's just got a presence that no one else on the show really has. And then like the show's got criminals and villains, like, but no one like when Snake shows up, it's not going to be like a serious whole episode.
Yeah, and like I think the thing that's like you expect Bob to be, because of like all of the things that make up his character, like being like kind of like this conservative, well-cultured, kind of like snobby kind of man, you think that like, I mean, like, and he gets frustrated and angry when plans don't go his way, but he also has like this really human reaction at the end where he's kind of just like, oh, foiled again, like back to the drawing board. It's kind of like this like perseverance to be evil, which is kind of commendable, I guess.
Right. Like, he's dedicated to something.
Yeah, he's dedicated. That's attractive in a man.
But yeah, so this is your favorite Bob appearance. All right, I'm a little surprised.
I think so. I mean, the next one is obviously really amazing, but I don't know. When I think of Sideshow Bob, I think of this episode a lot, just because I don't know. It's got a lot of good lines in it.
There's 2 episodes I can't decide which is my favorite. Which I guess we can segue into the next episode, season 5, episode 2, Cape Fear. This is one of the ones I'm saying competes for my favorite. I think this might be one of this is a top contender for Simpsons episodes period for me.
Mhm.
And here's why. I think because of this, they're parroting the movie Cape Fear. I think specifically the remake, which was only a couple years old at the time.
Is that the one with Robert De Niro, right?
Yeah, with Robert De Niro. It's so moody. Like there's no mystery plot in this one. I mean, there's a little bit of mystery in the beginning, someone sending Bart threatening letters, but like it's as soon as it's revealed that it's Sideshow Bob, like there's no mystery. He's just gonna kill Bart. Like there's no scheme. Like it's become so much more menacing and like so much more moody and atmospheric. There's so much visual stuff in this. Like in the lead up to this, I was sending you some text messages. Like I love the parts where Homer like bursts into Bart's room, like with a knife trying to give him brownies and stuff, but like it's terrifying because someone's trying to kill him. And like
And they're just so insensitive to the fact that like he's been getting like death threats in the mail.
yeah,
It's like barging in with a knife, like not a great idea.
but I think this is the episode. Bob gets a lot of the stuff that's going to define him for the rest of the series. He gets his theme song. The rake joke starts, which I believe from watching the commentary was just to fill time, as the script was short.
Amazing.
I remember when I watched it for the first time, because this is the first time I had seen one of those jokes that went on like it was funny, then it was so long it was unfunny, and then it went back around to being funny again because it's really not even that long. But it's just the fact that he makes the same shutter noise every single time is so funny.
That noise is so good.
It's like burned permanently tattooed into my brain, like the Bart the.
And it's just like, I don't know, he's like so put together. Like if that were me, I'd be like screaming the expletives. I can't say the word. And just like cursing and swearing, and he's just like,
but it's also comes on the heels. The context for it's also one of my other favorite jokes is what happens in Cape Fear movie is the guy does attach himself to the bottom of a car, but like Homer's, they're going to their new witness relocation program home, and Homer's like, hey, who wants to drive through the pumpkin patch? Bart and Lisa say yes, and then Bob under the car says no, and Homer's like, oh well, 2-1, not thinking Maggie's not gonna have that voice and vote, so he's already all jacked up from being run over by 1,000 cactuses. So like, cause when he's stepping on the rakes, he's got spikes coming all out of him. So I think he's just he's so defeated right then and there that like 1,000 rakes hitting him in the face like isn't even phasing him anymore.
This is the one where he's writing the notes in his blood too, right?
Yeah,
he's like writing his laundry list.
Yeah. And to get corn holders.
Yeah, it's like he's stupid at times, right? Which is why you kind of love him a little bit too, because he's just like, you expect him to be so much more.
But it's amazing how menacing he is in this, and then how like extremely cartoony this episode is. We literally watch him get trampled by elephants. They sing the entire HMS Pinafore score with like flags and props and costume changes and stuff, and Bart's reading a playbill of it at one point. So it's amazing like that he can swing between both like extremes,
right?
And it's so awesome to watch. And like nobody else does this in the entire series.
Yeah, he has an impeccable range, I will say. Just incredible. And his singing voice is lovely too, right?
Yeah, and
does a lot of Broadway shows, right?
I know he was a stage guy. I'm not sure what all he's involved in. I only know him from this, Cheers, and Frasier, and then more recently Money Plane. But that's a whole other conversation. Which if you don't know what that movie is, if you like So Bad It's Good movies, watch it. It's probably the best movie to come out in 2020. Not that that's a lot of competition because nothing came out, but yeah, he sings in Frasier and stuff, so I know he can sing. Like it's not just something they're doing for this. But yeah, Cape Fear is so good. There's so many great jokes in it that like I don't know, that like really stick with you in watching the show. I mean, granted, this is season 5. This is when we're like peak golden era of the series. But yeah, next one's good too though. But before we move on though, do you have any other thoughts on Cape Fear?
Yeah, no, I think you just nailed it. I think it's just like fun watching him go back and forth from being completely terrifying because, you know, like I was a kid when I first saw this, and so he actually did kind of scare me a little bit, you know,
Yeah.
not really like seeing the humor in it, I guess. But then like you'll watch him exactly. It's probably a lot the way that, you know, this is like the first instance where you kind of start to see like him and Bart's relationship kind of starting to like change and grow too, where, you know, Bart's kind of like swinging back and forth just the way like a child watching the show would be swinging back and forth, where it's like, well, he's making me laugh and he's funny and I'm enjoying watching him singing this. But then like right at the end at the of the boat ride, you have to worry about him like cutting
Yeah.
your throat, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, it is kind of a little bit of like a watch from behind your couch kind of episode when you were a kid. Because I was a kid when this is out too. But like, I think because there's a lot of elements in this that are really, really silly, like the Thompsons thing. Like it kind of helps keep you from getting too like distraught. And then like even then the movie theater scene where Marge is like, "Stay away from my children," and he's like, "I'll stay away from your children forever." And he's like, "Oh, that's a terrible line." And then he comes back in the frame. It's like, "Wait, Marge, I came up with a better one. Say, stay away from your children again." And she just says no, and he has to like walk away defeated. Like it takes a little bit of his menace out, but like, you know, if he ever once he gets a hold of Bart, it's gonna be, you know, curtains. That's not a pun on them doing a performance. Um, but yeah, did you ever watch the movie that's based on Cape Fear?
I've seen the part with the car.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I watched it like maybe when I was like out somewhere, but I don't think I've ever seen the whole movie before.
It's a good movie. You should watch it.
Check it out. I'll
Yeah.
check it out and then rewatch the episode.
I think we talked about it when we did Treehouse of Horror, where like the Shining episode kind of ruined The Shining for me.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say I had this at a similar effect because I watched Cape Fear with an E first, versus watching Cape Fear. But like you will see some of the scenes, like it kind of makes the episode even funnier in retrospect once you know what they're doing. But like what's great about it is you don't have to even know that it's based on a movie and it's still good.
Mhm.
You know, and it's
Yeah.
still funny.
Exactly. I don't think I realized, I mean, like the title gives it away, but you know, for a long time watching that episode, I had no idea it was a movie until like I was probably an adult.
Oh yeah, I didn't know until I was like a
Yeah.
teenager and I was trying to become a cinephile, you know.
That makes sense.
But I think after this they realized like they got a hit on him. But it, you know, it's funny just watching his plots over the first three appearances. All right, frames Krusty so he can take over a show and do like a more refined, less. Oh, and also, you know, for revenge for getting shot out of a cannon and being abused for years.
Right?
Black Widower, it's like a money scheme. And then the third one, he's just like, I'm just gonna murder this kid.
Yeah, because now he has two instances where he's been foiled by this child.
Yeah. And like that's now his defining thing. Although next episode, it's not really what he's going for. But I think, yeah, after this, it's like he shows up every season, like once a season for the next couple of years. Until arguably, I think his character reaches his conclusion. And then he's got like another like 14 episodes. So yeah. So season 6, episode 5, Sideshow Bob Roberts. I think one of the most unique episodes for Sideshow Bob, where he runs for mayor, and it's not necessarily about like some sort of big elaborate scheme. I mean, granted, there's a scheme in it, but as an adult, I love this episode because of all the political humor it has.
Yeah.
I mean, even as a kid, I got that Birch Barlow was supposed to be Rush Limbaugh.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was a little bit older than you when this stuff was new, but so I was still aware of some of the stuff that they were doing. But like as a kid, like I didn't really get the Republican versus Democrat aspect of it. And like as an adult, I'm like, oh, this is much funnier now.
Yeah. Well, and it's just like we were talking about this earlier. It's just like funny how, you know, that was like kind of a joke then, right? Having like the two sides kind of bump heads. But like it's just so relevant now, like even more so because it's just become so much more divisive.
Yeah. And we were talking about it ahead of time, and it's kind of dark and sad that like the Simpsons can still like these old episodes, like you'll talk about them like predicting the future and stuff, but it's really like they're commenting on contemporary American society, and we've done nothing to progress any of that in 30 years. That's why it still sounds like it's the same kind of thing now. And like that's kind of really depressing.
Yeah. And I mean, like this one, it even goes into like, you know, rigging an election and just how, just like the Bob is able to like just kind of like use his charm and his standing and like his abilities to like get a crowd like riled up to
Yeah.
basically like, beat out somebody who, albeit Mayor Quimby is a terrible politician.
Oh, he's terrible. Yeah.
But like, he's a practiced politician. Bob's never ran for office before.
I
So
mean,
it's like,
Lisa says it in one point. Is like, I can't believe a convicted felon got so many votes while another convicted felon got so few. Yeah.
oh, so good. And like, I don't know. I don't want to like get into I don't want to like offend any of the listeners or anything, but it's just, there's so many good Republican jokes in this episode.
It's hard to keep this specific discussion apolitical.
Yes.
Because it's all about like, the Republicans ruling you with an iron fist and blah blah blah. But like
a lot of good Democrat jokes too.
Oh no, the show makes fun of it. The show hits everyone, but he's running as a Republican, so there's that stuff to comment on. But like even if they never said whatever their parties were, like it still works. It still would work. It's not about that.
Right.
It's about like how when Bob becomes mayor, all the things that he does, trying to build a freeway through the Simpsons house and stuff, sending Bart back to kindergarten, which seems like a weird amount of power for a mayor to have.
Well, I mean, look at the town. Look at the town he's running, though.
And how easily they get whipped up into like a thing. But I guess you kind of need to have some of that, because part of how they stumble upon the scheme is Smithers goes behind Mr. Burns' back to basically help foil this. And because like, hey, his ultra conservative views conflict with my choice of lifestyle, since they were still hinting that he was gay. Flew over my head for years and years and years. But when I was a kid, I didn't mind, because talking about attempted chemistry now, what is that? There's so many good jokes, and like I said, it works better as an adult than it was when I was a kid. I love the negative political attack ad that they do about like the revolving door prisons and how Mayor Quimby like lets criminals out. He even let out that Sideshow Bob. At the end, it's like brought to you by the community vote for Sideshow Bob, Bob Robertson.
Yeah, I don't know. The writers of the show just are. You can just tell that they're such, well, at this point anyway. And I'm not like knocking the people who are writers now, but it's just like at this point in the show, you can tell that they have some very intelligent, like cynical, satirical writers who are just like so on point that it's just like no matter like who you affiliate with, it's just like you've seen that ad, you've seen that, you've heard this story, you've lived the story, you know what I mean?
Oh my god, it's like when I hate election years, it's just non-stop ads like that, and it's like, oh my god. But yeah, as far as a Sideshow Bob episode goes, I like how different it is. I like that it's not necessarily a revenge plot. Like he does get to do stuff against the Simpsons in it, but like that's not his motivating like factor. And like in a way, he's kind of like a pawn, which they use against him at the end to get him to like admit his plot.
Right.
But like he's just calling into a conservative political talk show, and they're like, well, we need someone to run for mayor. I know this guy we can use. He's charismatic. He's because what they say, it's media trained, charismatic. I forget everything that they say, but like he fits the bill. And you can see why specifically the citizens of Springfield, who aren't necessarily the brightest bunch, would fall in for someone like him, even though he's tried to kill many of their citizens many times.
And I think the gag at that point too, where it's like they're listing the qualifications, they open the door and what's standing at the door is just a water cooler, and they're like, he's perfect.
Yeah, they clap.
And Bob walks around, they're like, oh, he's even better.
And then Rainier Wolfcastle's like, I like the human touch.
It's just like, oh, so sadly accurate. Like,
but then when they're actually in the polling booth, Homer's like, well, I don't approve of his Bart killing policy, but I approve of his Selma killing policy. Bob. And then Krusty's like, well, he did try to frame me for murder, frame me for robbery, but I'm aching for that upper class tax break and just votes for him anyway.
Yeah, it was like the 100% of the town had voted for Sideshow Bob. It was pretty crazy.
Including all the characters that are dead. And I also love when Lisa's dead cat like is revealed to have voted for him too. She's like, this time it's personal. I was like, he tried to kill me. Yeah.
Well, and that's perfect. This is like a perfect, you know how much I love my Lisa and Bart team up episode. So this one's just like a perfect example.
Oh, I love that they do the whole Woodward and Bernstein thing.
Yep.
Like, stuff. I also love that randomly like Homer tried to infiltrate Riverdale and the Archie guys show up.
Yeah.
But then he's reading their comics while they're doing the Woodward and Bernstein thing, and like he's like, oh, snuck up Riverdale snobs.
Oh, so good.
That's like that's a fun random gag because the show still would be like real surreal. Yeah, Sideshow Bob Roberts, a really good one. The next one's also like a scheme where like not necessarily like vengeance against the Simpsons, but Sideshow Bob's Last Gleaming, season 7, episode 9. This is more of like I hate TV, let me get rid of TV kind of plot.
This is almost Joker's plan in Dark Knight, isn't it? Am I thinking of the right one? What's the one where he doesn't want to get rid of TV, but he's like talking to them over the TV? I don't know. I'm sorry, I just made a bunch of people so angry.
Well, then they can give us comments and it'll help our engagement.
Whichever one of those Batman movies that was, I was just like, this is a perfect like classic villain plot. I feel like I've seen this before.
I mean, I guess it's more of a stock supervillain thing.
Yeah.
But he's sick of the TV. TV's like dumbing down of society. So he finds an excuse to finds a way to escape onto an Air Force base. Makes a demand to get rid of TV in town. He steals an atomic bomb that they just have to threaten everyone. Probably one of my favorite Sideshow Bob jokes after he's done on Tyrannovision making his declaration. I love that it cuts off and then he comes back on. It's like, listen, I realize the irony of appearing on TV to decry it, so don't bother pointing that out. Like, even as a kid, I thought that was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. But yeah, I guess this is just more Bob going kind of crazy. Because once this plan doesn't work, he just steals Bart and tries to kamikaze him and Krusty. But as far as these classic episodes go, I don't know. I feel like this one's a little bit weaker.
Yeah, there's like there's some good banter between him and the kids, which is always like something that I want to see. Yeah. Like we'll talk about that in the next couple, but I love when they kind of have like these back and forths, and it's almost like he kind of like praises them for like figuring it out,
Well, yeah. Well, I like that they were already having to play with the tropes here a little bit when they're like, he's about to blow up the town, and they're like, Bob, that'd be taking the easy way out. And he's like, I agree, and then blows it up. And then it cuts to commercial, and after it shows the mushroom cloud. So like, oh my God.
Isn't that like a famous ad from like the 1970s?
Yeah, then they come back to it, and it's that where it's like showing all the things being about to be destroyed like in time. But it turns out the bomb's a dud. It's just like a little poof, and it sets off.
My favorite line is like right after that when he's like checking the expiration date of the bomb, and he's like,
all these rats come out of it.
I just had to go with the 1950s aesthetic or whatever. There was plenty of bombs, but
he's like, no bomb. Oh, there was so many shiny new bombs, but no, you had to go for that retro charm or whatever it was. But then right after that, Bart's trying to do the, wow, how do you come up with your schemes buying for time thing after he pulls a knife on him. And he's like, oh, don't insult us both with that flatter the villainy thing. He's like, oh, I should have known you're too smart for that. He's like, really? Do you mean book smart or street smart? Because a lot of people can be book smart. And then that's when Lisa has the time to send out the message. They get the police there.
Yeah, like that whole chunk of it is so good. And like, I just love that, like, Lisa, when they get out of the blimp finally, like, she's so excited to tell her parents that she's like foiled the plan again.
I love when Lisa's like a little kid.
Yeah.
She comes up like real excited,
Yeah.
It's like saying everything that happened real fast in the way that kids do by like bouncing up and down. And then I love Homer's response to that. I was like, well, I destroyed the gate, but you don't hear me brag.
Yeah, I think that's like also part of that's like one of the best parts of like Bob and the Kids is like Marge and Homer are pretty much largely like out of the episodes in general. and like they're off just like that whole episode, they're basically just worried that their kids are like locked inside and they're outside of a closed chain link fence. And
Yeah.
they're spending the whole episode figuring out how to get into the chain link fence.
And as soon as they do, they all left.
Yeah.
Bob stole like a plane and is now
It's just
flying
like
away.
pretty, I don't know. I like when they even at the end of Krusty gets busted not to go back, but he's going like into the paddy wagon and he's like yelling to everybody. He's like, don't underestimate like children's intelligence, speak to them like on your level or whatever.
Yeah,
You
he's
know
still
what I mean?
talking about it like in terms of like this TV show.
Yeah, like
He's like, children are smarter than you give them credit for. Like they busted me in a great screen grab where
and it's just, yeah, I just think
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Bob loves I kind of think he loves like almost setting up these like plans just to see if like they'll figure it out, you know?
I mean, that'd be an interesting twist that they have. No spoiler alert that they haven't really done yet, but like, here we are, season 31 or 32 or whatever we're on. Jesus.
At this point, I feel like they would probably just take any idea I send in. Let's try
Why
it.
not, right? Yeah. All right. So the next episode is also arguably my favorite episode for Bob.
Yeah, this
And
one's awesome.
I think in a more perfect world would have been the final send off for him. Brother from Another Series, season 8, episode 16. So this one, Bob's reformed, and even though Bart's never believed him every time this happened, this time they still do that, and like he actually hasn't. He hasn't reverted. Like he has reformed, even though they're still kind of playing with the audience expectation on that because Bart and Lisa are still investigating him and going for a scheme. I love when Bob's trying to live his life and Bart keeps inserting himself in it. So I love when Bob's like, I should have done something. I'm going to do something I should have done a long time ago. He brings them back home and is like, Madam, your children are no more than a pair of ill-begotten, kids or whatever. I love that Homer's like, even Lisa. Yeah, I don't know. I really like Bob in this one. He
Yeah.
gets released for a work program with his, long estranged brother Cecil, voiced by David Hyde Pierce, Kelsey Grammer's brother in Frasier. And there's obviously a lot of Frasier jokes in this, like the whole brother from Another Series thing is a reference to that. I think they have amazing chemistry in that show, and it does come over to this one.
Mhm.
But I love that the twist when they discover, like, they confront Bob about his plan, and it's revealed that it's Cecil's like revenge against him, and like, even though officially he's doing it for the money, this embezzlement scheme, that the three of them have to team up and save the day. And like Bob even points out, like, listen, Bart, you have to trust me. Even I don't like this as much as you do. But yeah, I liked Bob's hero turn. Like I kind of wish that they were able to find a way to stick with that if they're going to keep using him.
I mean, yeah, you'll see it again, right? He does that often. I think he's kind of like,
Well, I know he kind of buries the hatchet with Krusty and a lot of other characters. Like,
yeah,
I just sometimes they get consistent. I don't know. Well, I guess we'll talk about some of that stuff as we go. Because there has been other instances where like he sort of worked with the Simpsons or whatnot, but like this is the first time he felt like he genuinely did reform.
like he's a freed man, just kind of like trying to reform himself and be a part of society and actually just like have a job and like live a normal life.
Well, and they play with the jokes of that a bit too. Like I love the part where he first sees Bart, like, he calls down to him, hello, and then Bart hides. And he turns to Cecil, he's like, oh, he's just shy because I've tried to kill him so many times. Like it's like so nonchalant. I like that he's going on, goes on a date with, Edna Krabappel.
Oh yeah, that's so good. He's like, that was Edna Krabappel. You only get one chance with Edna Krabappel.
Yeah. Well, I like that he's like, I did try to kill, because she's like, oh, I've never dated a convicted, murderer before. It's like, well, he never actually successfully killed everyone. And she's clearly disappointed. And then the joke where that follows that up, I did try to kill the world's best lover or whatever before, but then I realized there are laws against suicide. And that kind of brings her back around. I don't know.
Yeah, Edna and Sideshow Bob relationship, but unfortunately that will never happen.
I know. Well, it won't happen for a lot of reasons now.
Yeah.
Although, I guess this is a conversation for another day. I kind of want to give a lot of the later season stuff more of a try.
Mhm.
I like the idea of Nedda, when Ned and Edna Krabappel get together.
Yeah, they're cute.
Yeah, I just haven't watched a lot of the show just because whenever you dip your toe in, like it's kind of bad. But I'm sure that there's so many episodes. There's got to be some good ones. I'm gonna go on a list and of like ones that are probably worth watching and then give them a shot. I think because I think we talked about it a bit with our Treehouse of Horror episodes. We're like, because we watch those every once in a while, but like they're just so bad.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like it's hard to kind of pinpoint what exactly it is that is missing. But like we were kind of saying, like just seeing the progression of this character over like pretty much all of the seasons. I mean, like
Yeah.
there's a ton he's not in, but he's pretty much like well spread over all of them. It's
Mhm.
just like kind of, I don't know, it's almost like they don't have the edge anymore is really what it is. They kind of like to for a while there, I feel like they like to purposely kind of like offend people, but in a tasteful way. And now I feel like they don't really kind of play with that too much.
But like I feel like I guess this will be revealed as we go farther into the list. I'm also like waffling a little bit because I don't really feel like getting into the rest of it. But um I think they need to have more. I think he needs to be not necessarily out just trying to kill Bart. Like that is boring now.
Yeah, we've
Like,
seen it.
and we've just seen him save Bart in this, in Brother from Another Series. Like, and that's like when he jumps off to save him instead of after trying to kill him so many times. I'm like, oh, like that's me. Like the character's gone full circle
Refreshing.
now.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
like when they get along. I like when they work as a team.
Yeah,
Um,
they're good. They're fun to see together, and this way you get more scenes with them together.
yeah, it's like a smart ass kid with this kind of snooty dude.
I
It's a good
mean,
juxtaposition.
I know Bart was designed to be like Dennis the Menace, but it's like a Dennis the Menace-esque
Yeah.
situation. But yeah, so this is the last time we see Bob for like 4 years. Um, Again, because I feel like this is kind of like the ultimate evolution for this kind of character.
Mm-hmm. Would have been a good stopping point, I think.
Yeah, but no good thing has come to an end. I mean, there's still new Simpsons episodes. Oh my God, we're still not even out of the 90s yet.
I will say that because I grew up with like the 90s episodes, I have a fondness for them, even though I know that the fan community widely agrees that like, a lot of those like early 2000 ones are not great either. But like I
I
I
I
personally
have
like
I
those.
have some affection for some of them because again, I was probably a teenager. There's some good stuff in there, but even then at the time, I was like, this isn't nearly as good as it used to be. And it's
Mm,
it's it's once Homer morphed into jerk ass Homer is when that's like because the flanderization effect on everybody went to like a certain extreme. Like it's really hard to pull back on. Like watching some of the earlier episodes, I'm like, I love when Homer was more just kind of like a lovable doofus and not so malicious, you
yeah,
know?
like selfish to be selfish, not selfish
Yeah.
for
Like
moron.
this isn't the guy that would sacrifice his bowling dreams
Right.
for his daughter that he didn't want.
Mhm.
So I don't know. Like, but this isn't a Homer episode. We'll get into that in another one. The
That'll be
next
like the
one.
therapy session, I think. The
Yeah.
Homer episode.
Oh man. All right. So we might as well get into the
Let's do it.
non-golden era episodes. Season 12, episode 13, Day of the Jackanapes. It's kind of a Manchurian candidate thing
Mhm.
where Bob kidnaps Bart and very easily hypnotizes him into killing Krusty the Clown because Krusty erased all of the episodes that had Sideshow Bob in him because all of a sudden he cares about that.
There are some good gags in this one, I will say.
Yeah, there is. But at the end, like Krusty like thanks him, so he's like, "Oh no, I better stop Bart." And then they blow up a bunch of network executives.
I think this is the point where they also just like were so blatantly like things were going sour with like Fox and stuff, right?
I mean, they were more blatant than that, even like the Poochie episode.
That's true. That's true.
Um, I don't know. This one, not anything special, in my opinion.
Yeah, not super memorable other than just like, you know, banter between Bart and Bob, which is silly. Can be, they do a great job of kind of like
I will say with this one, at the end of it, Bob and Krusty bury the hatchet, and it seems to stick.
Yeah.
From here on out, which is always nice. I love characters that progress, but after, granted, it'd been 4 years since Brother from Another Series, but it felt like such a backslide that it's depressing. But I don't know how I would have had a redeemed Bob get involved in plots. So I don't know. I guess yeah, that's what he has to, his function in the show is like a villain role. You kind of have to have him be a villain.
Plotting something. Yeah, but I think you can be more clever than his obvious target will be Krusty.
Yeah.
Been done.
Oh yeah, maybe like his high, like maybe some other thing he perceives as lowbrow. Maybe that's something he targets. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
This one, I like this one, but it's weird. The next one.
I kind of like it too. Season 14, episode 6, The Great Louse Detective. So in this one, someone is trying to kill Homer. So to get in the mind of a madman, they have to enlist another one. So Sideshow Bob has to team up with the Simpsons, and they give him like a shock thing. So like if he tries to kill them, they can just like electrocute him, and he'll have to stop. It's nice. It was cool seeing like Homer and Bob never get involved together, so it was kind of cool to see them be like a pair and try to team up and do things. I like the part where Bob's like, "I need to just see a normal day of your life," and they go hang gliding. And he's like, "This isn't what you do every day." And Homer's like, "I just wanted to impress you." I'm like, that's kind of funny.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of good jokes in this one. I love that like Bob lives in their house and is kind of just like with them, being like a part of their family unit, and kind of just hanging out on their couch. Everybody has a good fun time zapping him. There's a lot of good gags with the buzzer.
And there's another new mystery, and they set it up. It's got its clues. I don't think it's particularly great because we see a new character we've never seen before during the show, and it's like, oh well, why would they have him be there?
Yeah.
I don't. Granted, I don't know what I would have had it have been, but it turns out it's like Frank Grimes' illegitimate son wants vengeance for some reason, even though, as far as we know, they've never met each other.
Yeah, right. It's a little weak. I think they were banking on it being Grimesy's kid. They were like, oh, people are gonna love this.
Yeah.
In the grave. Yeah, this one, I don't know. It was definitely weird. But
yes, as far as like a teen season episode, I think this one wasn't that bad.
No, yeah, and I think
with that specific caveat that it's this era, not like particularly great episode of The Simpsons, but
yeah, no, I think anytime that like Bob is trying to solve the problem, I think is always a good thing, because he is just like supposed to be this really smart person, and I just love like seeing him sit down and really like thinking this out for the benefit of something else that isn't evil. Like,
yeah,
that's kind of cool.
Like they keep saying he's this like master criminal, like criminal mastermind, but like he does keep getting foiled by Bart.
Right.
Granted, like, or is it just like he's a normal type of criminal, but like the chief of police is Wiggum? Like,
yeah, he just seems like a genius because he has like kind of an accent.
The cops are so stupid and incompetent. Like, well, I know the next episode is your favorite.
Oh God, this one is hard to watch for me.
Season 17, episode 8. It's kind of like a secret Bob episode, because really it's the first half is a Simpsons like travel episode where they have to go to Italy to get Mr. Burns' new car, and it's like such a stupid reason to get them there.
Yeah,
because they're like, why wouldn't he just go get it? But anyway, they get stuck in like a little Italian town, and the only person that speaks English is the mayor, and like, shock to everyone at Sideshow Bob, we find out, after he got out of prison, he did try to do a new leaf, but like he just left the country, went to Italy, started a life, and now he's got a wife and like a little baby, and he doesn't want the Simpsons to like reveal his past to anyone. Of course, then Lisa gets drunk and then does it.
I do love drunk Lisa. She's super cute.
And again, I kind of like that they're working together there until they can get their car fixed and get them out of the city. But once that goes to hell, like Bob just tries to murder them. And his family is just as crazy as him.
Yeah.
And they swear a vendetta.
Oh my god, the kid saying vendetta over and over again. Oof.
That kid is the most annoying kid.
Vendetta, vendetta. I was like, guys, it's not funny. Stop making him say it over and over again.
Yeah, I get it. It's like a 2-year-old
Yeah.
with a knife, but like, oh my god. Yeah. So I know this. You were telling me. I think this is your least favorite Bob episode.
Yeah, I just every time I try to watch it, I'm like, God, this is hard to watch, but I'll watch it because
I mean,
Bob. But
there's like no plot,
there's
like
no
Bob
plot.
plot. Like there's no mystery or anything.
Yeah, there's nothing like kind of like the thing that's like fueling it is just like really weak. In fact, I mean, and like that might be part of like the joke that they're trying to capture, but like you totally forget that the car was even like the car, Mr. Burns's car was like even part of it, because Mr. Burns is like, you guys have been gone for a month.
Yeah, he does say that, calls him at the end, like
Yeah,
you've been gone
like,
for a month. Yeah. Like there's some funny stuff. Like that's a funny bit. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think because it's a weak episode because it's like it's literally a half-baked Bob episode and a half-baked like travel like vacation episode.
Yeah. And like you got to give him credit for trying different things and different combos, but that one I just didn't. I don't know. There were like cool
it feels like an experiment, maybe giving Bob like a family thing.
Yeah.
Can make it like a new, like try to open up new avenues for Bob stories because he's too popular character to just put in mothballs forever.
Right.
But I don't know. It's ultimately not a very great episode. I kind of like the next one, season 19, episode 8, Funeral for a Fiend. I remember I did go out of my way to watch this one when it was on because not only it's a Bob episode, but David Hyde Pierce comes back as Cecil and John Mahoney plays their father in this, which again, more Frasier jokes, like it's funny to me. In this one, Bob dies and Bart can't like come to terms with it. Like it's like some sort of scheme, but he's going out of their way to show that he is dead. And then spoiler alert, he's not really dead. He's just scheming to get Bart in a coffin and cremate him. And the whole family's in on it. But we do see Francesca and Vito or whatever his kid's name is in this.
Yeah.
And then they don't ever show up again. And we still have like 9 more episodes on this list.
I think he mentions them again though. But yeah. That's like, I mean, I liked meeting his parents.
Mm-hmm.
I love Cecil, so I'm glad he was back, even if it was just for a few lines.
Yeah, they don't factor into it as much as you would want.
Yeah. I think it was good of them to kind of, I mean, I also feel like you could have left Francesca and the baby out of it and nobody would have cared, to be quite honest. Like
the fact that there's even an attempt at continuity in a show that's very famous.
Yeah, I'll give them that.
Continuity. Which, I can't remember if they still brought back the rake joke occasionally. I think that's more of a later season thing.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly when there were episodes they were popping up in. I should have written them down.
When the rakes popped up?
But occasionally he just steps on a rake.
I do love the rake guy because I just feel like it's so human, like a human reaction.
But also, like to me, like my cynical brain is like, oh, they're just trying to pander to your nostalgia.
Yeah, definitely, it works for me.
All right. I don't know. I think this is one of the more interesting plots. Especially again, like I don't want to say it's all downhill from here, but it's pretty downhill from here.
Yeah. The next one, he's only in it for a second, right?
Yeah, so there's a couple of these episodes where he's not like a main focus of it, but like there's something in it I wanted to discuss. We can get into that next one. So Wedding for Disaster. So it's revealed that when Homer got divorced and they remarried in the Millhouse Divided episode, the wedding didn't count because Reverend Lovejoy wasn't actually ordained at the moment. So they have to go. So they're like, hey, we have a chance to do like an actual real planned wedding. And then all of a sudden Homer mysteriously disappears and the only clue they have is SB. So they assume it's Sideshow Bob. So they hunt him down. What I like about this is like Bob and Krusty are just kind of hanging out. I like that it shows in an earlier episode, Bob was like, I have a life outside of you, Bart. And this one kind of really proves it. Like they're hanging out. Like I said, they buried the hatch and like it's stuck. I appreciate that. But that's more or less like it's not Sideshow Bob. It's eventually revealed that it's Selma Bouvier. She and Patty had like kidnapped Homer in like a Saw-like scenario to keep him from marrying Marge. I I do kind of like this episode, as dumb as that plot point I just said is. Um, I don't know. It's like, as someone who's done a bunch of weddings, like, I like the wedding planning stuff. I love Homer and Marge's relationship.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's still really sweet. Like, at the end, of the day, like, they were going to go to the courthouse and get married there, but then Homer's like, I want to do something nice for Marge. And then when that all falls apart, they go back to it then, but like, they blackmail Patty and Selma because I think Bart and Lisa figured out who they were.
Mm-hmm.
They still get to have like a little bit of a nice wedding. I'm like, all right, it's kind of sweet for episode 9 or season 19. Like, all right, this one wasn't so bad.
Yeah. And I think that last he made it just because they went around and made sure that they got all of, throughout the whole planning process, like Marge is becoming this bridezilla because like she never really got a wedding because well, she did, but it was like in the hospital because Homer had gotten like alcohol poisoning or something.
Yeah.
So I think, at the end, she's like planning this out and kind of making all these demands that she doesn't really get in the end. But when they finally like throw them their little like reception party or whatever, they made sure that all those little details she was trying to get where there was like a little bit of each one there. So that was nice.
It's funny. I tweeted out a screen grab of this episode as we're watching it. Homer mentioned she's a bridezilla, and then it shows them from Maggie's perspective where Marge turns into Godzilla and he turns into King Kong and fight each other. I'm like, oh, I guess I don't need to watch the new movie now.
In fact, that scene kind of bummed me out. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Like when they were fighting, it was cute because they were calling each other bridezilla and like King. I forget King Wrong or something like that.
Yeah, called him King Wrong. That's what it was.
Yeah. But then like once she like kind of like frustratedly leaves the room, he just like gets a beer out of the fridge and sits down and just looks so like he doesn't even know what he did wrong.
Well, Homer's a very laissez-faire character. Like the world happens to Homer. Homer doesn't happen to the world. I think that's a big part of his charm. But yeah, I don't know. Like overall, it's not like particularly great. I actually really like the Millhouse Divided episode, like the wedding they had at the end.
Yeah.
Them saying it doesn't count like kind of cheapens it a little bit. But I just love that, Homer's misguided like good deed. Like he actually did get them divorced. They have to do this wedding thing.
Right.
But he's trying to make up like they had such a crummy first one where they just went to like a chapel because he got her pregnant and right out of high school. Like, I don't know. I like when Homer, again, he's silly and dumb, but like his heart's in the right place. Like at the end of the day, he does love his family. That's why I love the Homer Lisa episodes so much.
They're so good. We're gonna have to do an episode.
Well, we talked about we're gonna have to do a whole episode on that. It's my favorite dynamic in the show. I basically love any dynamic with Lisa because I also love Lisa and Bart episodes.
I know. It's just Lisa. She's really like the secret sauce, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, so I just like that Bob's kind of an incidental character here. Because usually, again, Kelsey Grammer, like, you got to pay for him to be there. Like, you want to make the most of him. But like, that's kind of it kind of makes his appearance, like in this kind of, like when they do stuff like this, a little bit more, like punchy.
Yeah.
It sticks out a little bit more rather than just like, if they cut to like Cletus or someone who's in the show all the time.
Right.
Like a gag. But yeah. Oh, the next one also is also one of your favorites.
This one.
Season 21, episode 23, The Bob Next Door. I kind of like this episode.
Really?
I like, it's a different kind of plot, and they kind of fool you throughout the episode. Like you'd almost be willing to believe that this guy actually isn't Bob and maybe Bart's gone crazy. As they go out of the way to show he's still in prison, but like, so it turns out Bob learned how to do a face swap scenario. Like you have to suspend your disbelief a lot. But again, it's one of the few times we get some build up, and they use the 5 corners thing that was established much earlier in the show for like a way to get out of to avoid jail time or whatever. I will say, like, they went to like Family Guy gross out humor with the faces falling off, which is a thing they keep doing from now on now. And I'm like, oh God, why? But like they never mentioned his Italian family ever again.
I know. Choices were made.
Yeah, like I don't know. I could have done without some of that gratuity.
And it was like, okay, once was enough. But then it just like kept happening throughout the episode. And you're just like, oh, like,
Oh, and then the other guy gets like a bee under his face, and it's just like,
oh,
oh
yeah.
god.
Oh, so gross.
Like in a way that's not like funny or
They're just nasty.
good. Yeah, it's just off-putting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I um I feel like we didn't mention before. I love when Bob is in prison with the other prisoners. I love that, like, you would think that Bob would be like a prime target to get like beat up by like all of the people in prison.
I mean, they do make jokes about that.
Yeah, and
The
like
book
sometimes
club is
he
just
is.
them clubbing him with books.
Yeah, and like sometimes he is, but then like you'll also get these scenes where like they're really buying into like his like him being like kind of like an educator and like getting them excited about like their theater productions and stuff. And I think about that's always like a funny thing to like see him like interacting with his fellow prisoners.
Yeah. Well, like they show that he and like Jailbird Snake keep being like friends
Yeah.
because he's also just the generic criminal guy. Well, like when like earlier with the riot in Sideshow Bob Roberts, he's like on the phone and there's a riot happening. He's like, would you keep it down? This is a personal call.
Yeah. That's
You know.
good. So good.
Um
Yeah, I
yeah,
feel like
ugh.
there's so much to say about that one for me anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of that one.
I don't know. I like I don't know, something about it. Like again, my standards have been very much lowered by this point. So it's like, oh, this one wasn't so bad.
Hmm, hmm.
At least there was a plot. Um, as silly as it is. Again, like we also had, in Cape Fear super early, like Bob getting stomped by elephants and the oh my god, whatever the name of that play is. Whatever, he sang a whole play in front of a boat.
Oh, something Pinafore.
Yeah. He sang a whole Gilbert and Sullivan, and there was costume changes and stuff. Like, there's some enough suspension of disbelief. Like I was like, okay, at least that's not something I've seen him do before.
Hmm.
Again, although ultimately it was just to kill Bart. And then I think the next episode is my least favorite.
Yeah, this one was just weird.
Just stupid.
Oh wait, at long last.
Oh, sorry, I forgot
Yeah,
that at the end we have At Long Last Leave. So this
yeah.
is the 500th episode of The Simpsons, season 23, episode 14. He only has one line in it, so we're not going to talk about too much.
Mhm.
As for the 500th episode, I do like the idea that the townsfolk would get rid of the Simpsons because of all of the damage that they do to the
Right.
town. Like that is funny, but like Bob just is in the crowd scene. He's like, well, everyone's explaining why they want them gone. He's like, well, my position. I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
But that's the end of Bob in this one. Again, we're only looking at times where he appeared. He has a speaking line in an episode. There's tons of times he's referenced in a couch gag or as like a background cameo, like a crowd or something. I was like, I gotta narrow down my look at this at all. Especially since I had pretty sure I hadn't seen most of the episodes, which turned out I did see most of them.
Yeah.
But it was good to refresh my memory. Yeah, not an overall great episode, but I like the premise for it, at least for the 500th episode. But the next Bob episode, season 25, episode 12, The Man Who Grew Too Much, is just dumb.
It is pretty dumb. I mean, I like this one is more of like Bob and Lisa hanging out. We don't get to see that a lot. Which
Yeah.
The whole time that like you see like Bob and Lisa interacting, you would think like, oh, I feel like they would get along really well. They have a lot of things in common, a lot of intellectual things to talk about. So like this episode kind of played on that a little bit, which was cool.
Yeah. What's amazing is if the Simpsons didn't go to like the Monsanto place, like they just did, he would have had like no problem with his scheme. So anyway, it's like about GMOs and like some reason he's working there. I don't even remember why.
He's still in prison though, right?
Yeah, because he's wearing a prisoner uniform the whole time.
Right. It's like work release or something weird.
Something. I don't know why they'd have him, but like, so he's doing genetic experiments on himself. So he's like got all these mutant powers. He's trying to go to a museum so he can steal like the DNA of like George Washington and Mary Curie and stuff. I'm like, it's not even how DNA works.
And it was an art museum.
Yeah. So stupid.
I did like when they were throwing the artworks that they were being really accurate with actual artworks. That was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, as an art teacher, how did you enjoy that part of it?
They're always on point with their references, I will say.
So was that like a real like mural, like not mural, like mobile thing that
Yeah.
fell? Okay.
Yeah.
It's like when they were
And like all
talking
the
about
culture
like,
jokes are like, I thought they were funny just because.
okay, so I didn't get any of that because they're like,
Yeah.
how did you lift that? It's when he's known for how heavy his stuff is, and like
Yeah.
at this point, my brain was like sluicing out of my ears from watching all of these like right out one after another. Um, so I don't remember it as much. I just remember being like, all right, this is kind of silly and dumb. And then he tries to kill himself at the end by throwing himself off a dam again to evoke nostalgia, I guess. And like,
Was it a sacrifice? Right?
well, because yeah, he's in the bottom of the water, and then like he's like, oh yeah, I gave myself gills, and gets up and walks away. And he
Right.
steps on a rake on
Yeah.
the bottom there. I do remember that one. I'm like, ah. And then none of that ever matters again. The next
Yeah.
time he shows up, he's back to being a normal guy.
Yeah, we don't know if he still is just not mentioned. He could be. He could still be mutated. We don't know. Maybe it'll come up later. Season 33.
Oh man, we're getting there. Um, so the next episode I have on the list here is another like essentially cameo.
Yeah.
Clown in the Dumps, season 26, episode 1. It's the one where Krusty's father dies. I actually kind of like this episode too. Even though it's like again another Krusty quitting like showbiz kind of thing, which is like almost every Krusty story. It's our second one on this list alone.
Yeah.
But I like that he comes to the funeral and offers his condolences. Again, I like that he and Krusty had buried the hatchet. And I kind of like that Sideshow Mel's like drunk and confronting him. Was like, oh, so this is the guy no one can
Yeah.
live up to or whatever. I just wanted to bring up that aspect. I like that, you know, he still shows up at, you know, for Krusty at Krusty's father's funeral.
Yeah.
And the Simpsons are there too. So like he's not like he's just trying to murder them.
Right. There's a time and a place, and a funeral is apparently where he draws the line.
Yeah, he's not so
not a monster.
Oh yeah, and the next episode on this list is essentially a similar thing. Blazing Confused, again, same season 26, episode 7. Bart gets a new teacher voiced by Willem Dafoe, who like is like a monster, but he's got tenure, so no one can fire him. So anyway, he like shaves Bart's head and like makes his life terrible. Apparently at Burning Man, like he's like the Grand Poobah or something. So Bart tries to like foil his life. Anyway, the dude winds up being a jail guard.
It was a weird connection, that whole
Yeah, long story short, this guy that has a grudge against Bart is a jail guard, sees that Sideshow Bob also doesn't like him, and then like tries to team up, and then Bob's like, nope.
Because he wants to do the slicing. They did.
Yeah, there's like, well, which one of us gets to gut him first? And the other guy's like, I thought we'd take turns. He's like, that's not good enough for me. But it's funny that, you know, Bart has another enemy that they make in this. So it's kind of funny to point out that like he's got 2 adults that would want to kill him.
Probably more.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Like there's a way back when in an earlier in Sideshow Bob Roberts, because you know he's on the radio talking to, you know, Birch Barlow. He's like, Lisa comes in, Bart, your mortal enemy's on the radio, and turns on as Dr. Demento. He's like, oh man, I'm a kid. I'm 10 years old and already have 2 mortal enemies. You know. Now they're actual characters in the show. Yeah, so the next appearance.
This one's also gross.
I don't like it either. It's Treehouse of Horror 26, season 27, episode 5. The first segment, Wanted Dead, then Alive, then Dead Again. I watched it when it premiered just because it's like, in this episode, Bob finally kills Bart. It's like the episode where like Scratchy finally gets itchy. I was like, oh, I have to watch it then. I'm glad that they like kill him right off the bat, and like I'm not waiting for it the whole episode. Like, when do they get to the fireworks factory? But like, it's just really like mean spirited and gross. Where he keeps even before he starts bringing him back to life and keeps like killing him, he's like parading around his like rotting corpse and stuff. I'm like, yeah, this is really uncomfortable.
It's not funny at all.
It's just gross. It's just because like they could do it, you know?
Yeah, it's literally like 10 minutes of him just like murdering him in different ways without really, well, and like part of their charm is that he's, you know, that he's constantly plotting to revenge and he's constantly foiling, and when you take one of those away, now it's just you're watching a murderer murder a child, and that's not really charming or fun.
Yeah, I think it's because it's because he's 10.
Yeah.
Like, and
Oh, sorry.
it's so gruesome, like over and over and over and over again.
And they're really graphic. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just it was tasteless in my opinion.
like Bob's putting his intestines and stuff around his neck like a scarf
Yeah,
and things. Like it's like,
yeah,
it's really gross.
yeah. It was for a very, I would say that one was intended for a very specific crowd, and I did not fit into that to that
Yeah.
crowd.
So we only got 2 more episodes on this list, which as of this recording have been the Bob speaking appearances.
Mhm.
Which, how are you feeling up to this point? Like I'm feeling mostly like they should have left this character a long time
Yeah,
ago.
I think they should have just let him go after the brother from another series. I
Yeah.
do. I mean, yeah, it's just at a point it's starting to get like gimmicky, and that kind of is sad because he's such a well written and thought through character. It's like you guys need to edit yourselves.
Yeah. So next is Gone Boy.
This one was
From
okay though. I
yeah,
don't
from
mind.
it's season 29, episode 9. I kind of like this one too. Again, it's in a new position. Bart gets lost in the woods and is presumed dead. Meanwhile, Bob's going through therapy, and it's like, you need to cut him out of your life. Like, you need to let this go. Everyone believes Bart's dead. Bob does not. He escapes from prison, and basically like hunts him down and helps find him. Um, of course, with the ultimate goal is like, I won't believe he's dead until like I make a soup from his bones or whatever he says. Tries to kill him and then realizes like he can't. Like,
Which history?
it's just one of those things. But they've done that a couple of times. Like at the end of
Grown
the
up.
Great Louse Detective, he like shows back up to kill Bart and sings a whole song about he's grown accustomed to his face and then just leaves.
Do love that. I
Yeah.
think of that song often.
It's like he needs him to he gives like his that gives him like purpose in life. But at the end of this, he goes and lives in the lighthouse, and that's where we pick up on him. In the last one, Bobby, It's Cold Outside, season 31, episode 10.
With his thirsty neighbor Cassandra.
Yeah. Again, he's not pointing out that he's married or anything. But he becomes like, gets the role to be Santa at like one of those crappy like Santa amusement parks. And because he's such a method actor, he can't kill Bart. They're going for another SB, which is funny that they go immediately and arrest Selma Bouvier because of this. If someone's stealing and ruining Christmas, it turns out it's Smithers and Burns.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Yeah.
I liked Gone Boy Bobby, It's Cold Outside. It's not the worst thing, but like it's also stupid.
Yeah, no, it's like cool that he was in a holiday episode. I think
Yeah.
he doesn't normally get to be in, I mean, his own episodes are kind of like an event, but it's cool to kind of like see
Yeah.
him at a
So
different time period.
I do like when he's like doing more of it, like he just more shows up and just a part of the town. But anyway, those are all the episodes. Sorry we kind of like blasted through them, but like at a certain point, there's not a lot to say. It's just a lot of not that funny stuff happening.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. And Gone Boy was cool that Millhouse was there, I guess.
Yeah.
I liked
Um,
that.
yeah, I guess let's take a quick commercial break and we'll come back and we'll get some thoughts now that we've gone through everything. Talk about the trajectory of this character a little bit. So we'll be right back. Created by husband and wife team Kendall and Kayla, Star Savior Bunny combines Sailor Moon-esque super heroics with the challenges of early adulthood. Read for free at tapis.io and check out their Instagram at Star Savior Bunny for new updates and projects. Thank you for listening to our podcast, but have you checked out our store yet? We sell all kinds of nerdy products from comics and graphic novels to retro video games, model kits, toys, and statues, and more. Visit us at loveupeentertainment.com, and as a special exploratory promotion, the first 20 people to use the code FRIENDSCAST at checkout will receive 10% off their first purchase. If this is successful, we will do more podcast exclusive promotions in the future. That's levelupeentertainment.com and code FRIENDSCAST. FRIENDSCAST.
This message is for Ileana and Miguel. Hey, this is Gabriel Iglesias.
It's Mark Hamill here.
What's up, y'all? This is me, DMC, the KING.
Martha Sedan, the Zombie King.
I'm Paul Felder, UFC fighter.
WWE superstar Sonya Deville.
What's up, guys? This is Harry Mack.
Hi, I'm Julia Leewald.
And I'm Eric Leewald.
Hey, this is Matt Cardona from the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast.
Yakko Warner here, described mysteriously as an old man from Michigan. And you are watching Toy Quest 101, baby.
And you're watching Toy Quest 101.
You're watching Toy Quest 101.
And you're watching Toy Quest 101.
Hey guys, it's Ileana and Miguel here from Toy Quest 101.
Make sure to check us out for toy reviews, statue unboxings, and to see what celebrity guests might pop up to help us inspire kids with autism and special needs.
You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok.
And make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Toy Quest 101.
Oh, and remember, the Force will be with you always.
Bye now.
All right, and we're back. All right, so now that we've gone through all of Bob's appearances, what do you think? Do you have a newfound appreciation for him, or has your opinion on episodes changed at all?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we kind of said it. I think that I am always going to enjoy watching Kelsey Grammer be Sideshow Bob, even if it's the silliest, dumbest plot. I think that he just is like, it's astounding. It's almost like the joke of itself, right? Like he's kind of like in this town of, dimwits, but he's always trying to kind of like, I don't know.
He's so cultured and like
another flavor to it. You know what I mean? Like he he's so cultured that like other people just like don't understand him. And I kind of like seeing that juxtaposition.
I like that we don't go to the well with him too often.
Mm-hmm.
This was 19 things we talked about, very like, and quite a few of them were more just cameos than anything else. Mm-hmm. That's 19 episodes in like 31 seasons. So like a little bit, maybe a little bit more than twice a season, or once every, well, I'm like more like you show up more than like a little bit more than half a season, but like, yeah, he's one of those characters. Like once you get to a certain point with him, where it's like you can't, because the show is The Simpsons, you have to involve them in the plot, and it's like he can't just always be wanting to go for Bart. They do call it out a lot of times. It's like you failed like 10 times, you failed like 12 times or whatever. Like Bart even says one point, like he's tried to kill me so many times it's not funny anymore, which I did laugh at. Again, watching them back to back, I'm like, yeah, it's not funny anymore. It's kind of sad.
Yeah,
I'd rather he try to kill Milhouse or something and do a whole episode on that.
I think that would be really funny, and like Bart's kind of jealous that he's like trying to kill somebody else. I think that'd be pretty funny, actually.
Yeah, I don't know, need something new, like some new dynamic.
Kind of interested in his life with Cassandra. I'm kind of interested in like this lighthouse kind of situation a little bit.
Yeah, and like I just would rather see, if they're gonna bring him back, I'd rather see things without the Simpsons.
Yeah, why not? They've done it for characters before. Episodes where it's kind of just like the gag is that the Simpsons are barely in it. So,
I mean, 22 short episodes about Springfield is amazing.
Yeah.
It's almost got nothing to do with them.
Yeah. I don't know. I think they could totally get away with an episode where it's literally just him kind of like being in the town and we just like see what his life is like.
So in watching just the slice of the series that's just Bob episodes, you can really see how the Simpsons as an entire series like changed over the years, and it's really wild to watch like back to back like that. Like if you watch the whole series from beginning to end, it's much more, I'm sure it's much more gradual. You're kind of like lulled into it, but like you can see like how much more fast paced and mean spirited and just kind of dumb it's gotten.
Yeah.
Like he stopped really even having plots or mysteries. Not that the early ones were particularly all that great in retrospect, but at least there was an effort.
Yeah.
And, and also mixed in with like them being genuinely funny and creative, and like they really got away from like atmosphere and stuff. And to be fair, they got away from that during the golden era.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say like after Cape Fear, like none of them are particularly like, they don't play with like lights and camera angles and stuff as much.
Which I feel like is kind of, we've talked about that before. you see that a lot, like in seasons like 3 and season 4. I feel like they do a lot of kind of like interesting, more artsy, creative things. I wonder if it just like got too expensive.
Yeah, I don't know. But that's when the series was most like making the most money, was like when Simpson Mania was a thing. But like a lot of the stuff with the new HD era, it's also flat.
Yeah.
And it's like it's just so not interesting to look at.
Yeah. I mean, I always enjoy seeing how they kind of like twist and change with the times, like even if it's just something as stupid as like, now the TV's a flat screen and it
or like now they've got smartphones and stuff.
Right. And I kind of just like seeing them like update things every now and then. But I also don't think that that's like enough to save it. I like the ones, I mean, this is getting totally off topic, but I like the ones where they go like into the future. I like the ones where they kind of like imagine like what life will be like.
Yeah, this is a little off topic too, but like, because I was thinking about it, because I was like, oh, maybe one of the things I'll ask is like, what do you want from another Bob episode? But really, what I want from The Simpsons is just get weird with it. Like you've done every story, like Krusty's getting canceled again. It's like, oh my god, I can't deal with this. But like, I'd love to do some weird experimental stuff. Like, just do an episode that's got nothing to do with The Simpsons. Just you have so many interesting characters you can do things with. I don't know. Yeah, I think just you have this platform, just be experimental with it. Like all the couch gags that one season when they were doing all the guest animators, I watched all those. I didn't care about the episodes. I stopped watching after them, but like they were interesting and weird, and like I kind of appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. I wonder, like, as the cast gets older and like people like maybe start to retire, like can't do their voices anymore, if like they will have the guts to actually like take some of the characters out of the mix and see like how that affects the life of all the characters who are still in the show.
I mean, Hank Azaria keeps wanting to get out.
Yeah. And it's like, well, I mean, but he does like most of the voices. That would be pretty detrimental, I think.
Yeah, but like, Julie Kavner's like, you can tell like her voice, she's aged horribly.
But like, how
like,
would
voice,
it,
like,
what
vocally,
would it be like if Marge, died and wasn't there anymore? Like, how would that impact their family? Like, it might be kind of interesting to see like what that would be.
I hope that doesn't happen. Marge gets such short shrift in the series.
I know. I hope she gets, or like, what if like, I know they play around with like them getting divorced, like in like when they peer into the future, it's like they oftentimes ship them like as being divorced or separated.
Yeah, I think the show needs to have like some actual continuity now. Or I mean, we're way beyond the time when it should have done something like that.
Yeah.
Even something as simple as like just the kids getting a bit older, because like there's so much more stories we can mine from like teenage Bart, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's the show needs something new. It's one of those things where I also wouldn't even mind if it got rebooted.
Yeah. I mean, would it really kill, like if the season ended, right? Season ends, next season starts, and they're just like, all right, 10 years in the future,
Yeah, some new status quo.
Not a big deal. I feel like people would be like, all right, cool. Everybody looks older, no big deal.
I think they need to do something bold for The Simpsons and go into a new direction. Like, it's kind of, I don't know, I guess it's a little comforting, like in the sense that it's like still just kind of there. It's like, you can watch it and be like, it's kind of like snuggling up with a warm blanket, but like, it's just the show used to be so good and was such a big part of like my identity growing up and like my influence on my sense of humor and stuff that like, I don't know. And Matt Groening was like this weird underground cartoonist that got super lucky and was able to make a cartoon. And like, so it always had this subversive nature. Like it's weird that it was originally such a counterculture thing. Like it was the anti-sitcom, and then everything in its wake became it.
Right.
Like, like not even like even before like Family Guy and stuff, like, Married with Children and things like, we got like that real cynical, like edgy kind of stuff. And, it's weird that it's just kind of like, now it's like kids would look on like, oh, it's old and quaint. Like there's an early Family Guy joke where someone mentions The Simpsons and Stewie's like, oh, my parents watched that. And I'm like, that's kind of a funny joke. And I'm like, it's kind of sad.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I do want to look back the later seasons, because the podcast is like, I try to keep it on things where like I'm positive about. Which in a couple of weeks, spoiler alert, we're going to be talking about the new Zack Snyder movie, and I don't think I'm going to have anything positive to say about that. But I don't know. I might want to take a look at the new episodes. There's a YouTuber called The Real Gyms. He does Simpsons videos, and they're really good. I highly recommend them. But he just did once, like, it's not the top 20, but like 20 modern episodes to watch. I watched it. I was like, some of these seem kind of neat, where they're playing with like format, like there's one where it's like a book heist where the whole episode is like an Ocean's 11 like theme. Like, oh, that sounds kind of neat.
There's a lot of fun. There's this most current season that's like running right now. You just have to look at it through a different lens. You can't keep comparing it to what it was. You have to almost like watch it as if it was a new show. And like that's a hard thing to do with something that's been on the air for so long, and like especially when you don't like allow your characters to change. You're kind of setting yourself up for failure, right? Because it's hard for people to not compare it.
Yeah.
But I think that like the first couple episodes of this season I've really enjoyed, because they did an episode of Comic Book Guy and his new wife, and like that was pretty cool, just like seeing like that they were kind of just like talking about like having like if they should have a baby or not, and like just talking about things that are like actually like really important, important things in people's lives that like you now have to think about in these modern times, and just kind of like making points to like have more characters of color and more episodes about like people of color. And I don't know, I think it's worth a shot. I've been enjoying this most current season.
Okay, like I said, I ended up liking some of the later stuff on this list a little bit more than I thought I would. I think the middle part, like the teen years, are pretty rough comparatively. Like I liked Gone Boy. And that's one of the more recent ones. Bobby, It's Cold Outside was kind of dumb, but like,
yeah, the Christmas ones are always, I love the Christmas episodes just because I love Christmas specials, but they're always kind of lame.
Like I don't know, it's got me interested in maybe watching, or maybe we'll come back around and do some of that. Maybe I'll get another Simpsons co-host at some point. Yeah,
just like a weekly watch the episode and get your thoughts on it or something like that.
I don't know if I'll go that far. I don't know if I want to watch it weekly, but I know a couple people that still watch The Simpsons on the reg. I didn't realize you were still watching it. Like, you watch it every Sunday?
I don't watch every Sunday, but I watch it like that week that it came out. I tried to.
Okay.
No.
This is the most I've watched of The Simpsons in
a while.
But like I did it all in one
time. I didn't. It was like I hadn't seen a bunch of them, and then like during quarantine, I was just like, I've watched everything. So I'm gonna stay here and just watch every episode of The Simpsons.
Yeah. As I've talked to your husband, and he's like, oh yeah, she watches The Simpsons all the time. I'm like, there's nothing wrong. I watched the same like 6 seasons over and over and over again. So
expand your horizons.
I saw a pretty funny meme. So when Lisa the vegetarian, and she mentions like the list of things that she can eat, and she mentions cheese, and Apu's like, oh, cheese. And except they changed the dialogue, so it's like, oh yeah, I love seasons 1 through 10, and she's like 9, and he was like 9 and 10. Oh, I'm like, I kind of like 9 and 10. Like, I don't really get why Principal and the Pauper is kind of seen as like the end of the show.
There's so many good ones, at least from my perspective. Like, I don't know, there's so many memorable ones in those years that I think people just like kind of clump them in and write them off. But
I know we talked about it in our one-off episode, like one-off character episodes, because we talked about Grimy, but I really think Homer's Enemy like irrevocably breaks the show because it's like it points out how ridiculous it is, and it's like, oh yeah, not that no one ever really took it that seriously, but like you don't put like all of Homer's adventures back to back, and it's like, oh yeah, he went to space and toured with the Smashing Pumpkins and like hung out with President Gerald Ford.
Yeah, he's had an amazing life.
Yeah. And what's amazing, again, because it's been on so long, that like with his like supposedly like low paying job, like they could not afford the house that they had.
I know.
Like in modern times, they could not afford to have 3 kids. Oh my gosh, which they couldn't back then too. That's why I had to quit his bowling alley job and go back to the plant.
Yeah, he loved his bowling alley job.
I know. We got to do an episode where we just discuss Homer Simpson and like.
Yeah, I think that would be cool if we did like the greatest hits of all of the core family members.
Yeah. Full disclosure, we've been trying to talk about how to tackle the series, which is why we've kind of been slicing it up like this.
Mm-hmm.
As otherwise, we're just like, we're going to just talk about The Simpsons. There's just too much to talk about. Maybe we'll go season by season and just do like our top 3 per.
That'd be cool.
Although some seasons it's going to be hard to pick a couple of them. Some of them are like almost all gold.
Yeah.
Or like the worst ones are just pretty good.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I don't know. Watch the new stuff. I don't know. Whatever people want to listen to us talk about. Like I said, I know a couple of the Simpsons people that might want to come on, so
they're always welcome.
Yeah. I just, you happen to keep being available and we keep wanting to talk about the same things.
I don't have a life. As you can tell, I just watch TV. And most of it is just repeating the same episodes over and over again.
Hey, I talk about watching TV every week, so.
Although I will give myself some credit, there's not a lot to be doing right now, so I just kind of am enjoying it.
So you've been mostly working from home, right?
No, I've been out and about in the world pretty much every day.
All right, well, never mind then.
But you know.
But yeah, so Sideshow Bob. Would you say he's Kelsey Grammer's the best guest star? To me, it comes out between him and Phil Hartman.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I love Phil Hartman, but I think Kelsey Grammer, yeah, absolutely. He's won Emmys for his role on The Simpsons, which is pretty crazy when you think about
I know. It's just one of the things is like Troy McClure and
Final
Huts are so good.
I know.
But it's also sad because like at a certain point you can't have them anymore because he died in real life. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we're reaching that point where a lot of Simpsons actors have died in real life. Like, it's why you can't have Edna anymore. I mean, I'm glad that they retired the characters. But, like Rissy Taylor died, so no more Martin.
Mm-hmm. That's so sad. I love Martin.
I know. He's so naively enthusiastic about things. Like, I just also want to punch him. I totally get why he's bullied. It's part of the reason why I love him and Nelson so much. I love Nelson too. Like, there's so many great characters and stuff. Yeah, I don't know. Man, this has gotten really depressing. Sideshow Bob's a good character. If he shows up, I'll probably still watch that episode, even if I don't watch the show regularly.
Definitely. Even just to see where it's going, curiosity.
Yeah. And like the Simpsons iconography will always be something important to me. Like your sweater with all the Bart Simpson heads is amazing.
Thank you. It's a good gift.
Like the last t-shirt I bought, I'm not wearing it, is the punch out like mid-fight screen where it shows the stats for the characters, but it's Homer and Drederick Tatum. That's all 8-bit, and it's like, the brick hit house and stuff. Like I love that kind of stuff. Like I'll never when I look at Simpsons memes web subreddits all the time, and it's amazing. I sent you some earlier today.
Yeah, I gotta.
It'll never not be a thing. It's so strange that it's again because it was so subversive, and like especially critique would especially critique Disney, and now it's just part of like mess.
Even if they I wonder if there's rules against them making jokes about that, because I feel like that would have been something that they would have jumped right on.
I know that when they signed their deal with Fox, they had a special clause. As long as they were being made, they were allowed to say whatever they wanted about Fox.
Really?
That's why when I forget which in the TV episode in Sideshow Bob's Last Gleaming, that the guy in prison is Rupert Murdoch.
Right. Yeah.
He's complaining about TV. He's like, oh, I bet you don't like tabloid newspapers either. Which as a kid, I didn't know what that was. But like as an adult, I know what it is. I'm like, that's
right.
That's why they're always making fun of Fox. Like again in that episode, like, oh, this is so bad, and then you hear the Fox fanfare. At the end. Or like from another episode, it's like, Fox News became, or not Fox News. Oh my God, Fox Network became a softcore porn channel so subtly I didn't even notice. Stuff like that.
Yeah, I think they've just lost their kind of FU edge, which I appreciated.
I don't know. I almost wouldn't mind seeing like a reboot or a reimagining with like a different like Matt Groening type charge, like a new style or something might be interesting. I don't know. I think I just want to see The Simpsons like just become something else than it was, than just continue to just put out mediocre Simpsons episodes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like if they don't do anything to change it, it kind of like their hold on like American like culture kind of like ends with our generation.
Just
you know,
just in watching Sideshow Bob's like change through the years, it's like kind of sad. It's like, watching the great athlete at like the peak of their game, and then they just keep trying to be relevant.
Mhm.
And it's just like while you watch them, they just like be worse and worse and worse. It's like Brett Favre. Not that this means anything to you, I guess.
No.
But like he should have, instead of retiring, he kept trying to play at different teams, and it's going down as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. It's just like, oh. And then he ends his career by sending a lewd picture to a reporter and
Nice.
leaving in disgrace.
Classy.
So it's like, yeah.
Classy move.
I know. Not that that's going to happen in this. It's man, we can again, because the Simpsons again predicted things. Like, remember the episode where like at least they have a babysitter and like the whole sexual harassment thing where they try to cancel Homer?
Yeah.
And it's like, man, that's really prescient about today. That's just because we haven't solved any problems in society.
I know.
Oh, which is sad.
I wonder if that's also kind of why they've given up. Maybe they're just a little depressed too.
I don't know. I don't know what it's going to take. I'm obviously not a guy who makes cartoons. I don't write television. I just complain about it on the internet. So what do I know? But I don't know. I think that season with the experimental couch gags was a good idea. I think they need to do that with the actual episodes though.
Yeah.
Because you can have this really amazing like Homer Simpson like in the couch go on like this like 80s like cop show like thing. But then it's just going to be like, oh no, this episode Lisa's in love with this guy or this boy who's like doesn't like the saxophone. Meanwhile, the B plot is Homer gets another job. Like, I can't, like, it's so depressing to watch that stuff.
Yeah.
Or like, oh no, Lady Gaga's back. Like,
oh, Lady Gaga.
I mean, I like Lady Gaga, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, no,
so just that episode's not very good.
No, I feel like they were like, oh my god, we got this really awesome person to be on our show.
I'll be honest with you. I think the Elon Musk episode is worse.
I've never seen it. I must have seen it. I guess I just don't remember it.
They're just kissing Elon Musk's ass the whole
really
time. Like, you can tell the writers were like
weird,
really into it. I'm like, yeah, this is bad, especially because like I don't like him.
I also feel like he's the type of person who would like write that into his contract.
Yeah, it's awful. He's just another rich guy who's getting rich off other people's ideas. That's the thing, people. He is not an inventor.
No, he wants to capitalize the moon and space. It's disgusting.
Yeah, no, it's bad. I mean, we're in the late stage of we're in the death throes of late stage capitalism. I mean, I guess that's why the Simpsons aren't around, are still around. Like, they won't be allowed to die because they still are too merchandisable. Like,
yeah, I'll keep buying it.
I mean, like,
as I scratch in my Bart Simpson sweater.
I mean, Simpsons movie 2 comes out. I'm not going to say no to that freak show. I saw that in theaters, even though I'd given up watching the show years ago. So, but we'll talk about that. I think we have some stuff to say about the Simpsons movie specifically. But so be on the lookout for that at some point. But holy shit, this is a long episode. I guess we'll end it here. I'm just looking at the clock now.
We got really derailed.
Yeah, it's hard not to. It's just like, I don't know, watching it's like kind of depressing. Again, like I'm not, the show's not terrible. Like, I've definitely seen worse shows now. But like, it's just watching the Bob episodes, I was like, oh man, this got kind of like really stupid.
Yeah. They're in a rut. They're in a decade-long rut. Arguably
Decade,
long.
I would say that's generous. Yeah, I mean, all of the day, like, we're gonna keep coming back and talking about Simpsons. There's so much to talk about. There's so much good in it. It's such a great show. Like, you're talking about voice actors and stuff. Like, if the show wasn't still on, do you think people would have cared about Apu?
Yeah.
Because we could have written off like, listen, it was a relic of its time, but like, because it's still around, and like as a society, our sensibilities and stuff have changed. It stinks. Like, we lost that character. Like, Pooh's one of my favorite side characters. He might be my favorite, and we'll just never get him again. I would have been cool with a recast.
Yeah,
but I know a lot of like Indian actors have problems with the actual like accent.
Yeah, they don't want to, be typecast.
And don't get me wrong, I get it. I don't think there's a great solution to it. But I don't know. It's a sticky mess. It's a sticky situation. I don't think completely sweeping them under a rug and then making a joke about it in an episode is all that great.
Yeah.
But that's what they did. So here we are. And I'm not trying to get on a soapbox about it. But, when your show just dabbles in like stereotypical American culture, like you're going to get stuff like that.
Right.
I know they tried to do a thing where like his like American nephew tried taking over the store or something.
Yeah.
But he had like, I got big Poochie vibes off of him where he's trying to be like cool.
Who was his voice actor? His voice actor was somebody.
I don't remember. They're always somebody. I don't even remember the character's name. I think it was Jay.
Jay, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. I can't believe I remembered that. I don't remember like important things.
Let's see.
But yeah, I don't know.
Oh, no, he's not.
Was it also Hank Azaria?
No, I think it's actually an Indian person. They were in another episode, much a poo about something. But I guess Nancy Cartwright did him as a kid.
Okay. Because I think he showed up before, as I know Apu had a brother. I don't remember his name, Sanjay. He would show up every once in a while and then just disappeared. I'm pretty sure he had a kid. And Apu's got 8.
I would love to like see an episode about them getting older. But if nobody
again, if we could time skip a little bit, I think that would go a long way. I don't specifically with Sideshow Bob though. I don't know what like an older Bart and Lisa dynamic would do with him. Maybe his kid is a kid now is like trying to get them instead. Screaming vendetta.
Vendetta.
Yeah.
I will not see that.
Yeah, I would skip that one.
I don't care about somebody trying to kill the Simpsons children.
Mm-hmm.
I care about the quality of like that character and how dedicated that actor is to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could care less what he was doing, even if he was just like a teacher in the school or like, a shopkeeper in the town. Like, I mean, it's funnier if he's like this evil villain, obviously. Mm-hmm. But if you take Sideshow Bob out of the mix, I don't want a new person trying to murder the Simpsons children unless it's a really amazing like actor choice that I'm in there.
Yeah, I don't know.
The child screaming vendetta. I'm gonna sit that one out.
Yeah. I wish I sat it out this time. I did see that episode when it happened. I was just like, ugh. And now I had to remind myself of him, like, ugh. But yeah, that's one of the lower ones. So what would you say is your favorite? Black Widower is still your favorite?
You're right. It's a hard one. I also really like Sideshow Bob Roberts.
That one's also good. Yeah.
Top one.
And your least favorite is the Italian Bob?
I'm gonna say my least favorite is Bob Next Door.
Okay.
But then
I'd put that one in like my middle.
I can watch the Italian Bob and like sit through that. Bob Next Door, I just didn't like it. Didn't like it.
I think my least favorite is Man Who Grew Too Much.
Yeah, that was pretty.
Because it's so dumb. I can't pick between Cape Fear and Brother for another series. I like them. They're both really funny. I like them for different reasons.
Actually, I was just gonna ask you a question, but I think that like I kind of answered it in my own head. But like, would you still like Brother from another series if you weren't such a fan of Frasier?
I think I still would. I think it's legitimately funny. I think it's a good twist on the Bob story. Mm-hmm. And like I said, to me, it's like a good ending for it, especially when like the kids are like trying to keep him from going to jail with Wiggum and stuff. I love that Cecil tricks him at the end. Is like, tell them you'll live to regret this. Oh, now I do sound crazy.
And that they fight over the bunk bed. I love.
Yeah, that's really funny. Like I would have been okay just seeing them in prison because you could have gone from that to the Great Louse Detective, and like not really missed anything. Because you still could have done the Shockham thing because he is in prison. Yeah. I don't know. I would have liked a new dynamic with him and the Simpsons. But at this point we're not going to get it, and I think expecting it would be asking too much of the show. And it's more interested in like nostalgia baiting and just being okay.
Yeah.
going through the motions. I don't know. But even like watching these back to back is like you like the most recent ones, like you can definitely tell like Nancy Cartwright's like 30 years older. I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm just saying
no, people age. It's not like,
and she's pitching up her voice to sound like a little kid,
yeah,
you know,
it's
like
probably straining her. I feel bad.
like Marge,
yeah,
like Julie Kavner, I feel so bad for trying to do
they
that
just
voice
need to. Well, I guess you can't really change Marge. She's already an adult, but
yeah, I think let the kids age up. Like I think ultimately that's, I don't know. The show needs a big status quo change and needs like status quo changes that are permanent and not just the flexible reality. Like they can still have some flexible reality stuff. Like, you know, they kept stuff with Sideshow Bob. His face keeps falling off.
Right. That's like what you're gonna keep around. I know.
You keep stepping on rakes, you know. So I don't know. I think we're gonna end this episode here though.
Cool.
Overall, if any of these episodes sound good, if you haven't listened to them or watched them, I'd give them a shot. Some of the later ones aren't that bad. Especially if you are a fan of the character and you're very lapsed. I'd check them out. Right? Like
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend watching them all back to back, just because that got really monotonous.
Yeah. I think that you should never be afraid to try things just because other people's opinions are, you know.
Yeah.
What's it gonna hurt? It's 20 minutes of your life. Check it out.
I mean, I'm always of the opinion, like, if you don't like something, a piece of media, you stop engaging with it rather than just sitting there being mad. Which I had to explain to someone at the store. He just wanted to complain about comics all day long. And I'm like, I don't engage with this. Like, it sounds terrible. Like, I don't read those books. They sound bad. Yeah. So I'm not going to sit here and complain about them. But anyway, I'm going to sign off. Thank you for joining me, Kayla.
Thank you for having me.
Sure. Anytime, man.
Thanks, everybody.
We'll have a cow again soon, I'm sure.
I like it.
All right. So until next time, be safe.